President Cyril Ramaphosa says the upcoming national dialogue will not be a one-time event but will actually unfold in phases starting from local consultations as well as sectoral engagements. National Dialogue Preparatory Committee has estimated the initiative will actually cost well over 700 million rand, resulting in a wave of criticism from trade unions, political parties and now civil society. The presidency has also sought to clarify details surrounding the cost of the national dialogue, saying there isn't a number or a cost that the government has committed to yet. The dialogue will then begin with a national convention which is scheduled to take place August 15th, followed by the community engagement right across the country. And of course, the aim of this dialogue, we're being told, is to discuss solutions to the country's current challenges. However, civil society organizations working in the social justice sector have urgently convened now to reflect on the implications of this development and also raise concerns about the legitimacy, structure, as well as direction of the dialogue. For this discussion, let's welcome Anzio Jacobs, who's the coordinator for Social Justice Assembly, as well as project specialist at the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund. So, Anzio, it's great to have you with us. So, you've heard me in my intro, the basically outlining some of your concerns, but I mean, let's hear it from you. As you stated in your statement there, the organizations are supporting the national dialogue, but just not in its current form.
Indeed, we realize that the national dialogue in its current form does not represent the ordinary South African. And so our worry is that this is a tokenistic affair, that we're going to have same old, these dialogues will happen again, and it won't change the reality for the ordinary South African in this country. Of course, there is concern about the budget, but when we think about it sensibly, if we need to get to all of the people across this country, it might actually make sense. So our pushback is not necessarily one against the budget, but against the modality and methodology that will be used for this discussion.
I mean, let's further extend on that point, Anzio, because I suppose the issue of inclusivity, I mean, there hasn't been a broad-based plan that actually details pertaining this current form of the proposed national dialogue that says how they're actually going to reach the less reached people of this country. That is your far-flung areas, your less service areas. So let's talk about the issue of inclusivity and how maybe you counter-proposing a new directive for the preparatory committee.
Look, when it comes to inclusivity, we have to think about the ordinary South African.
Absolutely,
making her fed cook on the side of the road should be as eminent a person as any other. And so that's really what we're responding to. We're calling for a participatory framework, and this means that government should show us how the selection process would work, so that ordinary South Africans also have the opportunity to comment on who it is that will be representing them in this dialogue of great national importance. We haven't had such a moment in the last 30 years, and if we're going to have to spend this amount of money on speaking to one another, let's do it properly.
Now, you put it in, you tabulated in number form some of the issues that are concurrent challenges in the country that, as the organizations you've actually identified, Anzio. Let's go through them from service delivery to the rest of them that you also want the preparatory committee to take into consideration, because I suppose the question was, South Africa and the president and all our leaders know what we are struggling with as the citizens of this country. What is a dialogue? How is a dialogue going to change it?
So our hope is that the dialogue will result in rapid responses. We know those issues, and in fact what we've done as civil society is to look at 6 or 7 convenings over the last 2 years where we've got networks, of people coming through, and what consistently comes across are 7 points. South Africans are saying we've got poor governance and service delivery failures.
We know top of that.
Then we know that we've got corrupt leadership and a lack of accountability. And so we're calling for such accountable mechanisms to come as part of this dialogue process. In the third instance, we note that gender-based violence and femicide are rife, and this is a crisis now. But beyond that, something that we also realized after we began engaging in this discourse is that children, youth, adolescents appear nowhere. 58% of our population is not accounted for in this dialogue. Moving on, we know that there are issues of inequality and land injustice. And we know that practically for the ordinary South African to be able to just live day to day, they are not surviving off the grants. So land is important.
True.
People are able to work and till the land so that they can feed themselves. And so land distribution is important. Then we've got to talk about climate justice and livelihoods around that. We've just seen the floods in the Eastern Cape. They were horrendous. what it means is that practically people's lived environments have been destroyed.
Oh, absolutely.
But that is just the tail end of what climate injustice is doing to us. The poorest of the poor are going to suffer. Climate change is already destroying environments such as through the floods. The infrastructure is being, if you think back to KZN, houses were moving off those hills because of the weather patterns. And then finally, we want a structurally vibrant economy that will give uniform access to everybody in the country. We can't have a situation where those that are in far-flung and rural areas do not have access for another 30 years. We have to resolve these issues urgently because those most in need of government services are not getting them. So what we're doing as civil society is we're calling to attention the fact that these are issues that need to be addressed urgently. We're saying that as part of the national dialogue, there has to be an infrastructure for a rapid response. Then we're saying that we need to go out at a ward level and engage with people.
Absolutely, door to door, because that's where the
works.
issues are. That's where you're going to identify these issues. So, Anzio, let's talk about how and when can citizens actually give you their views. Are you going through also a consultative process to also be inclusive in your process as well?
Yes, indeed we are. So the Social Justice Assembly will shortly be putting out a call, and the intention behind the call is to reach out to our membership so that we can gather voices of ordinary South African citizens. It's not that we haven't done this, we just want to identify who is participating in the conversation. Hlanganisa community organization has also come to the front and said, look, if you reach out to us, we can put you as part of the planning in these discussions. And there are other civil society organizations like Unmute, which is saying, come to us, let's talk about NPOs that are vibrant in the country.
So there's a vested interest from civil society organizations that actually represent and speak for the people to collaborate, to ensure that they try and participate effectively within this national dialogue, NCO.
Indeed, and that needs to include grassroots movements. So they are represented there, but not all of them. Of course, we don't have access to an exhaustive list. We need to think about shack dwellers. We need to think about those that are landless. We need to think about those that are in rural areas. And so where there are formations that exist, we call on them to reach out to the Social Justice Assembly, to the National Youth Coalition, to Hlanganisa and other entities that are doing this networking type of work so that voices are represented and we ensure that those that ordinarily wouldn't be able to come to the dialogue can.
All right. And then how are you then getting your message to the relevant authorities such as government in this regard or the preparatory committee?
So we're in fact engaging the preparatory committee already and the intention is to continue to engage them. I think something that is smart and useful.
Are they willing? Are they willing for, to listen to your suggestions, Anzio, specifically since you've come? I see it's a group of, I think I saw about 7 civil society organizations there that have basically put the call together to try and make this process as inclusive as possible.
Look, I mean, we are engaging them. Whether we're being heard or not is yet to be seen.
Who exactly have you spoken to?
We're hoping that the preparatory committee is hearing the inputs that we are making. We are speaking to the preparatory committee, but we're yet to see. Of course, this process is going to start in a week or 2, if I'm not mistaken, and then we'll really see whether the attention is being given to some of the things that we're putting into the public realm. When we're saying that there's an issue with these eminent persons list, we're not saying the problem is the eminent persons. We're saying who are eminent people? Who are we identifying in our populace? And we're saying to government and the organizers, you need to pay attention to ordinary South Africans because it's their realities that we are speaking about. It's not for middle class South Africans or those that are in the ruling class in South Africa to come and have a discourse about those that are most marginalized in our nation.
Anzio, we're going to leave it there. I suppose there's going to be a wide-reaching campaign where obviously those that want to participate and share their views can actually consult you through your organization. We're going to leave it there for now. Thank you so much for that input. That is Coordinator at the Social Justice Assembly, Mr. Anzio Jacobs there.